Horses! Many of you might wonder, do horses really matter that much? Would history really be different if the Native Americans had horses? So, this is Eurasia with horses? This is America without horses.
Now, what would change if the Americans had horses? First of all, how do we make this happen? Originally there were horses in America, but they were hunted to extinction by the natives. Let's say in this timeline the horses not only survive, but also get domesticated. What happens next? Well, in short, horses will shorten travel time, and that will allow trade and ideas to circulate around the continents even faster, and allow bigger empires to appear. But how does this exactly happen? If the Americans had horses, their early history would be wildly different. The introduction of horses into early agrarian societies would allow people to use the horses as farm animals, thus helping them make more food for less work. At the same time, this efficiency would allow farming to spread a lot faster in the Americas, around the same pace it happened in Eurasia. This means that by around 3000 BC, agriculture will have spread along almost all of America. The effects? Huge population centers around the continent spur up, and new city-states and kingdoms start appearing, with tribes slowly unifying with one another as they slowly turn into villages, cities, collection of cities, and then states. Originally, this only happened in modern-day Peru and Mexico, but this time it will happen much sooner, and in more locations such as Eastern North America, Colombia, Venezuela, around the Mississippi River. South American metalworking seems to have developed in the Andean region of modern Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, and Argentina, with gold and native copper being hammered and shaped into intricate objects, particularly ornaments. Originally, only the Inca managed to use bronze on a wider scale, and even then it was very late, as the Old World began fully embracing iron by that time. This time we might see the spread of metallurgy faster because of trade. A lot of cultures in the Americas didn't even need metallurgy, as by the time the technology arrived, they found better alternatives in using different types of stones. So because of that, they didn't necessarily see the need of developing metallurgy further, and most used it only for adornments and status symbols. But if there were horses, could we see a Bronze Age in the entirety of America? And not only that, but could we see the start of an Iron Age? That is a question that I cannot easily answer. And for this video, we will assume the answer is no, as that subject opens up so many possibilities that it could be a video of its own. We'll assume the civilizations here function just as the Bronze Age civilizations back in the Old World. Big states with small armies that protect their emperor, and probably have an elite force of chariots. This leads to very authoritarian forms of government appearing as bronze becomes a resource the state can procure. Probably because of this, we will see the appearance of Once the Bronze Age properly sets itself into the American continent, we will surely see the creation of empires and kingdoms across the continent, mainly around the agricultural heartlands. An Andean empire will arise and will be very developed, like the Inca in our timeline. It will have sewage systems, advanced infrastructure, and cultural institutions. The El Niño phenomenon, who was maybe responsible for the destruction of the Caracal, Wari, and Tiwanaku civilizations, wouldn't be so effective against this new Andean empire, as it has access to the Colombian and Venezuelan farmlands, which probably become the breadbasket of the empire. In the north, we will most likely see kingdoms appearing, all vying for power and prosperity. At the same time, an empire will probably form in the south due to the fertility of the soil, which would lead to a huge population base. At the same time, the Great Plains will start to look like the steppes of Eurasia, as in, there will be nomadic hordes of horse archers that will raid neighbors. This also happened in our timeline after the Spanish brought horses into America. Tribes like the Comanche began using Mongol tactics simply because the terrain highly encouraged that type of warfare. I also believe we will see the appearance of trade republics in the Caribbean, as their position in the middle of the continents encourages trade and commerce. They will become something like the Phoenicians or Venice in the Old World. But it wouldn't be a normal republic, because Bronze Age technology favors large-scale societies joined under a central government by a powerful ruler. So basically, these quote republics would be confederations of city-states, and the leaders of these cities would choose one individual from themselves to lead the rest. My guess is that the Mesoamerican civilizations will probably stay the same, but with bigger populations and armies. Just like in our timeline, the Vikings arrive in America in the year 1021, but instead of finding empty lands and some tribes, they find an entire kingdom. Now, as the natives still use bronze, this could be a divergence point, as the Vikings could teach the natives about ironworking. But as I said earlier in the video, we won't include that. So, let's assume that the Vikings slowly leave the continent as they did in our timeline. Now, 471 years later, a certain man appears, Columbus. Now, with all of this, would history play out differently? Or will the same things happen? Well, the main reason the natives lost in our world is because the diseases that the Europeans brought over wiped out almost all the native population. The reason why they were wiped out by diseases was that they had no immunity against them. But now it would be different. Having had cities and empires that traded with each other for hundreds of years would have normally created diseases amongst them, and so they would have reached some form of immunity. Now, if this would have granted the natives resistance against the European diseases or not is another question. If it does, then good for them. If it doesn't, then it is also good, because it means that the Europeans don't have immunity against the natives' plagues, and that gives time for everyone to recover. But after that, we might see the Europeans establish trading ports and exchange guns and technology for fur, gold, silver, and other materials. But no colonization. The Americas never get conquered by the Europeans. What does this mean in the large scheme of things? Well, no European empires that span the world, no USA, and probably no industrialization. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out my other videos.